This is DFS Chan on August 26th. I'm going to be talking about the next LOL, LPL / LCK slate. It's going to happen over the span of 2 days again. It entails tomorrow morning's LPL matchup between FPX and WE, and then Saturday morning's matchup between Damwon Kia and T1 in Korea. So these are all both playoff series, best of fives. So, I'll kind of go over the bracket right now, and I'll share my screen here. I think it's helpful to see like what stage everybody is at. So for the LPL, I mean, I'll make it short because I went over this matchup yesterday as part of the this morning's 2-game LPL slate. Obviously, EDG won the first game on that slate, and now the second game of that slate, FPX and WE game. This game is going to be, this game is also on tomorrow morning slate with the LPL game and the LCK game that's on Saturday. So here's the LPL bracket, FPX versus WE. This is the semifinals matchup, first semifinals matchup. So whoever wins this game or wins this series will advance to the finals. And then in the LCK playoffs, here is the bracket. And as you can see, this is the last matchup for the actual summer split playoffs. It is the finals matchup. That's why it's on Saturday. Damwon Kia and T1 are the last two standing. So we'll see who raises the trophy for the summer split in Korea. So like I said, I will pull this up, but as you know, I went over this yesterday between FPX and WE, so I'll keep it short. As you can see, FPX is a big favorite, especially a bigger favorite today compared to yesterday when I made a video yesterday. I think FPX was a little over -300 yesterday, but now it's at -450. So, obviously heavy amount of money coming in on FPX. And I sort of agree that, FPX, it should be a big favorite like that. But not at -450. So that's quite heavy. I do think Team WE has a pretty good shot at upsetting FPX if they fulfill their win condition, which is them just skirmishing constantly and gaining an early lead and snowball from there. Frankly, that's probably the only win condition that Team WE has against FPX, who is a more complete team, in my opinion, or has been a more complete team throughout the summer split in China. So I will have to favor FPX as well. I will skip on the combined kills per minute because, as you know, I mean, this is the LPL matchup that's just faster compared to the LCK matchup between Damwon Kia and T1, which I'll talk about next. So yeah, I mean, this LPL matchup is probably the matchup you want to get a long stack from. It's as simple as that. It's more than likely, I'd say like 80% or more than likely that this matchup will produce more kills compared to the LCK matchup. So I will definitely get a long stack of FPX or Team WE in GPP. But yeah, as you can see, the jungle control for FPX has an advantage here, albeit it kind of was reduced in more recent matchups in July. But yeah, so anyway, so as I said yesterday, I have FPX winning this series still. I think it's gonna be close. I think WE can definitely pull off one game in a best of 5, but I just cannot see them pull off 3 wins in a best of 5 series. So, as you know, just like NBA playoffs, a best of 7 series, a better team tends to win most of the times. So I like FPX here still to win. But like I said, Team WE makes a very interesting GPP play for many reasons, including the kill upside in this matchup, but also just from the ownership standpoint. I mean, I do think, just looking at the odds, Vegas odds, that Team WE is the biggest underdog on this slate too. That, maybe people will not play Team WE as much, but we'll see what happens. So I think Team WE makes an interesting GPP play for those reasons, including ownership leverage. The second matchup on the slate is Damwon Kia versus T1. Like I said, this is the finals matchup for the trophy, the big trophy. As you know, Damwon Kia has been pretty dominant in the LCK so far in the summer split. There were a couple months rather, where they've been a little shaky, but the last month and a half or so, Damwon Kia has been pretty dominant over probably almost all teams in the LCK. Even in the playoffs, as you can see, they play against Nongshim Red Force in the semifinals, and they beat them 3-0. Whereas T1 here, underdog at plus 200 in this matchup against Damwon Kia, they beat Genji in their semifinals game 3-1. So that was a very impressive win, in my opinion. T1 looked very solid. So yeah, but like I said, combined kills per minute metric. It's going to be a slower matchup. Damwon Kia has been playing pretty fast for LCK standards, but still it doesn't come anywhere close to the LPL matchup, LPL teams, combined kills per minute pace, on this slate. So I do think that it's going to produce fewer kills than the LPL matchup. So just, make maybe a short stack from this matchup. And then if you look at the other metric, jungle control percentage, Damwon Kia has been pretty dominant. They had the advantage the whole summer split and in more recent games. Now, just to note that T1 has been pretty dominant in the jungle as well in the playoffs so far. I mean, I know they play against Sandbox and Genji. They had 2 series to play, and they obviously won both of them. But yeah, it's been pretty dominant from the T1 standpoint. And so, yeah. But yeah, I mean, all of the metrics that I saw, it's about equal. I know T1 has a very, this is just my observation based on what I, saw from the metrics, but also my eye test. That T1, I think their win condition against Damwon Kia would be to gain an early lead and then snowball the early lead against Damwon Kia, which is, which can be difficult to do. I think T1 tends to do that really well, but Damwon Kia also is very smart about approaching a game like that against opponents like T1. So I think it's going to be kind of like I think Damwon Kia will maybe be prepared and kind of slow down the pace a little bit in the first 15 minutes or so, because as you probably saw on the metric side, that T1 has a very heavy advantage at the goal difference metric at 15 minutes. So that tells me that T1 likes to try to gain, they would like to gain an early lead and then snowball the early lead into a win. Now, I think if you go to the mid game and late game, I think Damwon Kia definitely has the advantage. They are a better team fighting team, in my opinion. So I think it really, comes down to the early game advantage versus mid to late game scaling advantage. And obviously, that's directly correlated to the ban and champion selection phase of each game in the series. I do think T1's coaching staff versus Damwon Kia's coaching staff, I think that's going to be a very interesting one. I know that's something that I haven't talked about before on DFS slates. Obviously, for DFS purposes, that's not as important, but when you talk about on the 2-game slate, you have to kind of just take a stance and, try to gain edge on whatever, whatever narrative that you may, you may have insider knowledge for, or you may have some ideas about what's going to happen on the game narrative side. I know, like during yesterday's video, we talked about how LNG, has been traveling a lot, and they were basically like a road team, traveling in cyber cafes, practicing and scrimmaging, preparing for this matchup from this morning against EDG. And I do think that really took a toll on LNG's chances of winning today. So, I mean, that was one edge that I kind of shared yesterday. But today, I just feel like, just based on the coaching staff differences, in my opinion, I like T1's coaching staff a lot more than Damwon Kia's, in my opinion, just based on how I've seen T1 operate their bans and picks champion selections the last month or so. So I do think that really helped T1 to kind of snowball the early lead and win their games more than often. The last month and a half, especially in the playoffs, I was very impressed with their champion selection and their bans in the semifinals against Gen G. I do think that really was clear, just based on how much early game advantage that they had over Gen G in the bottom lane, also in the top lane. So all in all, long story short, I do like T1 to upset Damwon Kia here. I do think it's going to be a very, very close matchup. But then, maybe maybe it's going to be 3-0. I mean, every time I say that, I feel like, one team just dominates and it's going to be a boring series. But in my opinion, just looking at the metrics and just based on my eye test, I give T1 a more chance than I guess most other people may think. I know Damwon has been pretty dominant, but T1 has been slowly gaining momentum and form. I feel like their form is about like right below Damwon Kia's, in my opinion. So I do like T1 just based on that fact, but also based on the metrics that I saw, like I said. I mean, in jungle control percentage for the playoffs, I mean, even though they played 7 games so far compared to Damwon Kia's, I mean, they have a bigger sample to analyze and they've been dominant. I really like T1's chances here, especially if T1 starts Teddy. I know that Gumayushi is more of an aggressive AD carry, but I think Teddy has been a smarter AD carry in the playoffs ever since he started the first couple series in the playoffs, which was surprising. So, but anyway, so obviously that's the inherent. That kind of leads me to share with you that T1 has a lot of substitution risk. Who knows who's going to start at AD carry, Gumayushi or Teddy. I do think Teddy will start just given that he started the last 2 series in the playoffs, even though Gumayushi started basically all the games in the regular season. So there is a chance that Gumayushi starts here or gets subbed in. So the AD carry position for T1 is a shaky one in my opinion, but owner in the jungle, I mean, I feel like every position can be substituted for T1, but I think just given the volatility, it'll be interesting to see who starts. But I fully expect, I mean, Kana in the top lane, owner in the jungle, Faker mid lane, obviously Faker, and then Teddy at AD carry, and then Keria at the support position. That's probably my expected starting lineup for T1, but we're not going to get a confirmed starting lineup for this matchup, unfortunately, because this is the second matchup on the slate. So I would just keep that in mind when you're building. But like I said, I'll probably, for my optimal lineup, I'll probably have FPX long stack and then T1 short stack. So T1 is a big underdog odds wise, but I do really think T1 has a very good shot today. But it's not, if T1 wins and if they dictate the pace, just based on the jungle control percentage, they're not going to get that many kills, as many kills compared to, like, let's say the winner of the FPX and WE matchup. So I'll definitely use a short stack T1 and then long stack FPX and an optimal lineup for me. Anyway, if you guys have